the buttons there.
Perfect. Okay, so if you just want to go ahead and close your eyes, and take a deep breath in. And just to take a moment to bring awareness to your physical body. Feel your feet on the ground. And allow all the energies that have been scattered throughout the day begin to merge back in, bringing all the soul pieces back home. Feeling that presence in your body, that strength, that wisdom, beautiful tower of energy that we become when we are whole. And as you bring that awareness, focus on your third eye and claim that you have clear vision. Allow that beautiful flow to focus on your third eye and claim your clear vision. Down into your throat. Speak my truth. My voice carries the wisdom of our divine families. And as that energy flows down into the heart, I am light. Allow the weaving and receiving of that intention. And then share the beautiful energies throughout our sacred circle. And as that weaving and receiving begins, move into your solar plexus. I am in my divine power. I am a sovereign being in this space of wholeness. Grounding all that beautiful energy into the heart of Gaia, the magic and peace of your true essence. And as we take that grounding, we connect to our teams who want to travel with us today, our guides, our teachers, seen and unseen. Invite in our crystalline beings of light, our galactic brothers and sisters. Our boundaries are in place. We are held in a space that surrounds and protects us. We are holding space for the highest good of our true, authentic, divine nature. Our circle is claimed as we are connected to the unified crystalline fields for the highest timelines for all sentient beings. And so it is. Just take another deep breath in. Bring yourselves back in, and we will start presencing ourselves in the circle. And Emma, will you start us out?
Sure. I'm Emma, and I am in Northwest Massachusetts, just south of the Vermont border. It's just stunningly beautiful here. I took my dog Sadie out for a little walk before the call, and just walking down the trail. It's very cloudy, and so it's almost like the trees soak up the light during the day, and they're kind of emitting it here at twilight. And there's this one golden tree on the bank of the river, and it just was like walking into this globe of beautiful golden light. So I'm feeling really blessed. And I will tag Arlie.
Well, good morning. I'm Arlie. I'm just outside Wellington, New Zealand. It's a lovely spring day here. Yeah, I'm a little bit discombobulated this morning. We just got back from getting a second opinion on some health issues my husband is having, which is why I was late getting in. But hey, I'm here, and very happy to be here in community. And I will pick Mary.
Hello, I'm Mary Berger. I'm in Vancouver, Washington, and it's mostly cloudy outside today. There's a little bit of sun out there, but the picture you see behind me, I took in Astoria, Washington, right before quarantine happened, and it's what I keep in my vision for where we can all eventually get back to. So, oh, I'm sorry. I will tag Kelly. Is Kelly there?
Sorry, I'm multitasking. I apologize for the interruption. I had an emergency call. All right, so I am Kelly. I am in my body and I'm in Portland, Oregon. And I am, yeah, I'm a little bit of everywhere right now in this very moment. So thank you. I'm glad to be here. That's all I'm going to share at this point. And I'll tag Cinda.
Mary, your picture's in Astoria, Oregon. You said Astoria, Washington. And I'm like, okay. No, although Astoria is across the bay. Okay, I mean, Washington's across the bay. Okay. I'm in Westland, just south of Portland, and I am so glad to be here. And there are so many pine trees that surround my house and the surrounding neighbors' houses, but there are these red trees that are bright. I mean, they're just so bright that it almost looks like the pine trees, because I'm up on the second floor, that they're on fire. And it really, truly almost startles me every time I see it, because I've been surrounded by a lot of fire recently. And so it's just exquisite. I'm so glad to be here. And I take Sharon.
Hi, Sharon Raji here, and yes, I am here this time. I see the codes worked well, and I'm in what would be Island, excited for what it is we're being called to do, and glad to be here with all of you. Still a bit combobulated, but things are starting to come together in a new form, which I'm also excited to be a part of. And I will see, I think, Susan, I'm going to tag you.
Thank you. I'm Susan Therese. I am in Byron, Illinois in the lovely Midwest, although it is snowing right now in the lovely Midwest. I was really hoping for an Indian summer, not looking like it. There's 9 inches in Iowa and it's currently snowing here. I know Sharon and I are very excited to have Mary here with us. Really excited to hear about her work with the computers and Arlie's story and how we can weave all that information together today and what might come out, the outcomes. They're always exciting. We never know what's going to come in and where we're going to go. So I'd like to introduce Mary. Cinda brought her to us because she has extensive computer work, as does Kelly and Emma. So we would love, Mary, to hear your experience and what draws you to the Crystalline Broadcaster Group.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel honored to be asked to participate in this meeting. I did attend a Crystal Broadcaster meeting, way back at the beginning, and really enjoyed it. It just didn't quite fit into my work schedule, so I wasn't able to resume. So I'm honored and thrilled to be here today. So I have quite a lengthy computer background. I've been in the computer business my entire life and have had my own business now for almost 12 years. It'll be 12 years in January. And my business is called Computer Diva, and I fix and repair computers, Windows and Mac. And about 5 years ago, I started getting the messages that there was some more in-depth work for me to do in terms of computers, and to kind of go off in a different direction than what I was doing in the traditional computer field. And I I basically had a few messages. One of them was I had gone to see a psychic, and this was about 5 years ago. And he was doing a reading for me. And he mentioned that, you know, he couldn't quite figure out what the visual was that he was seeing, except that there were boxes, all sorts of boxes hanging off a wall. And he really couldn't figure out what it was. And then he realized that it was a wall full of computer monitors. And he realized that the monitors were speaking to each other, and they were basically kind of passing on the message that there was somebody out there who was working with computers and who could heal the computer realm, as he called it, and bring healing into the technology industry. And these computer monitors, or computers, if you want to call them that, were passing along the message that basically I was essentially out there. And I remember laughing at the time, and I know Cinda has laughed at it several times, about the story that, you know, when this psychic told me this, he kind of freaked out during the reading, and he said, "Oh my God, the computers are talking to each other. That's just too freaky." And you know, he talks to dead people, so they're just about as freaky as each other. But so soon after that, I just started paying attention and really kind of, you know, diving deep into the message that I got and trying to figure it out. And that's when I ended up taking Reiki 1 and 2 classes and became certified, and just started, you know, using my own type of energy into fixing computers and trying to be purposeful and energetic about it. And I realized at the same time that, and probably a little bit before this, that Archangel Michael was also a partner with me in doing my work, and that every project I tackled had some sort of energetic element to it. And I quickly learned to discern what was happening with computers just by kind of sitting in the space in front of them and reading the space and reading the energy, and doing my traditional work in fixing the computer, but also trying to infuse a little bit of energetic healing in the process, and using a particular prayer that I use to send the energy out there and not only heal the computer that I was working on or the technology that I was working on, but also passing that out along through the wires to hopefully pass that healing on to the rest of the technology that might be along the internet way. And I've been doing that for 5 years now. And every time I sit in front of a computer, I just do my process, and it's short, it's sweet, but it's effective. And so I'm really glad to be able to share that with you here today. So I'm really interested in hearing Arlie's vision on what it is that she's learned.
Can I also add, Mary, remember you were also taking a class and you were learning about how a lot of the malware and a lot of the viruses were coming from Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And that you did a deep dive into how was it happening, how did it choose which computers to go to, and you realize that that sometimes it just came, but a lot of times after you would travel to those people's houses, you would feel the energy of the user of the computer, and how a lot of them were experiencing their own lower vibration, and you were wondering if there wasn't a correlation between their energy and the energy of the malware or the virus that was coming and being sent to them, right? Remember that?
Exactly.
And that you would have to come in and convince the computer that they were safe, but then you would also have to work with the client and try to get them to behave differently with their computer. And you would either bless the house, bless the room, bless the computer, trying to raise the vibration of the user to combat the equal vibration of the malware and virus. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to tell your story for you, but.
No, you did it very well. And thank you for interjecting with that. You know, I've been doing this process so long that some of it just becomes second nature to me. So I forgot to put that piece of the story in, but yes, absolutely. As I'm, you know, sitting there working with the computer, I, you know, energetically sense what's going on with it. But in that class that I took for the antivirus, I would call it virus remediation tools, sensing that it's more than likely the energy of the user that is interacting with the computer and the surrounding area that is drawing the virus into the computer. Because I've known a lot of people who, yeah, they are not all that careful with their computer, but their energetic level is so high, their vibrations are so high that they just don't get viruses. And you know, there's several people out there like that. And I would say that Shiddea, she's very careful with her computer, but she has always been one of those people that I just knew would never get a virus on her computer because her vibrational level is so high. There's no way that the low level vibration of the virus can actually make it into the computer. So it's so that's why I try and keep in my prayer work when I'm working with computers is to keep that vibrational level high and to impart that that wisdom into the computer itself and the surrounding area. Oftentimes I try really hard to do it with the client as well. I'm not always successful, but in the hopes that I can envelop and surround the technology in the area where I'm working with that high vibrational level, you know, hopefully it will kind of eke its way out into the rest of the area and travel its way through the interwebs and make its way out there. But it's really interesting how I could just sit in front of a computer and I could sense what's going on with the computer and ultimately what's going on in the household, because there's a little bit of give and take there. A lot of the energy that surrounds the computer comes from the person who's using it and their vibrational level. So yeah, it's been really interesting, and thank you, Shiddea, for pointing that out.
Arlie, would you like to tell us about your journey? What you saw?
Well, the short and sweet version is that we were crystal traveling. We had just learned that the crystalline world wanted a more active role, didn't want roles assigned to them, wanted to be more sovereign in working with us. And I was shown that there are crystals everywhere in everything, and that these crystals talk to each other, the crystals in the computers. And I keep going back to salt crystals because that's the one that's really everywhere and in every place. Solar panels and their rare earth minerals, 50% of those have crystalline forms. Just crystals are everywhere. They're talking to each other all the time. And they don't want to be assigned roles. They want to have an active part. And that's basically it.
On that journey, you saw three spots in the world. Was it in 3 different countries that there were dark spots with the connections?
Yes, I would have to go back and read my notes. Definitely. And there's hotspots of computer maluse, real negativity coming out of there. And what else? I came flying through the door and sat down at my computer.
You lifted up and you were looking down, and they were showing you the visual, if I remember right, and you could see these areas that were, and you're like, what's wrong with those areas? And I think your guide said that those are areas of darkness, lower energy, right, Susan and Sharon? Do you remember that? And you were like, well, what are we to do about that? And then it was like, wasn't it communicate with the crystals, have the crystals
Yes.
go and clear them out, clear it out, clear it out. And then that's when Susan goes, well, all the computers have crystals in them. They all talk to each other. Because we're like, how do we reach them? How do we get to those dark spots that are spreading? And I don't remember where they were located, but I think they were around the globe.
Yeah, pretty much around the globe. In Eastern Europe for sure. Where else? All I can think of right now.
Washington, D.C. was one. Washington, D.C. had one over it and was infected. And yeah.
Well, I think it's probably safe to assume that any of the places that are energetically dark would have one of these spaces, whether I saw it or not. So, yeah.
Perfect. I'd like to ask Sharon to share a little bit about, especially for Mary, to have a background about what Crystal Broadcasters, what our group has been doing over the last 6 months or so, and especially since we've started meeting every Monday to, kind of describe our process and the things that, are connected to our journey today.
Well, of course, when we first started the Crystal Broadcasting, which was, I don't know, I lose track of hours. How can I keep track of months and years? So it's probably been up to a year, because we started with time travel, the time travel project, with a few women whom I knew specifically did energy work and did soul retrieval or time travel. We would go back to prevent the insertion of concepts. We wanted to change the story. We wanted to change mass consciousness quickly, and instead of one by one, we just went back and said, nope, that story is not going to be inserted, and that allowed for a whole new streams of energy to come through that hadn't been tainted. So we had done the time travel for maybe about 5 months, when it was like, okay, well, now we need to capture the energy, and what better way to capture it than with crystals to capture the vibrations, because they can then be programmed and can broadcast. So we began the Crystal Broadcasting program based on the values that had been set in 2012 by a group of women at the Women's Grassroots Congress. They said these values must be the foundation for life and for our country from this moment forward. They were very clear. The values have sat there for all this time. So what I did is I would just take one or two of the values and put them into what I call reality statements, an affirmation type thing, put them into words, which then I translated into galactic language, star language, with symbols, colors, and numbers, and invited those people who love to work with stones to be part of the broadcasters. And that's probably where you were coming in. So so I send out these glyphs every month, and the women, cut them out and put them in their circles and let them broadcast. And what they're broadcasting is the future based on these values, the future based on these values. I think was maybe 3 months ago when we were shown that they were going to, that those in the other worlds were going to take the landscape or the form, what I call systemic domination forms, which are heavy. And instead of letting them stay in our world, they were going to drop them down into the -4th world, which is way out of our dimensional space, so that we could be functioning without their heaviness, and what we saw, not just me alone, but what we saw is this space between was being filled with crystals. The crystals had previously said to us, don't label us, don't give us a job. We want to be free agents. We have things to do, and you limit our ability to do our work if you put a name and qualities on us. So here came these crystal kingdoms, and some of them had never been activated before. I asked where they were coming from, and they said, we don't even want that on it. So we're just coming to fill space. And I was with another group within a day, and they saw all the crystallines were now taking over the ley lines. The ley lines of the planet were being shifted, but they were now crystalline ley lines, which is what we had seen like the day before. So since then, what we do in our crystal broadcasters, we certainly have broadcast the future. We have traveled into the future. We have anchored the future. We've done a lot of that work. But most recently, the crystals have asked to partner with us. And so at least twice a month, we connect with them to say, what is it you need for us to participate in? As the voice of authority, because we're in a physical body, they know exactly what they need to do, but they also need our calling them into play and permission, if you will. So when with that going on, and with Arlie's, this has all been happening quite quickly. And then Cindy says that, yes, remember Mary, and we're going like, oh my gosh, it's really, it could be huge. Just working with the crystalline kingdom's voices. And so that's where we're at today. And so Susan leads that at this point 2 weeks a month. She leads, and she's really connects with the crystals and leads us that direction. The other two weeks, we look and see, is there anything that we need to do as far as broadcasting, anchoring future, picking up our gifts that we've dropped, more of that kind of work. So we do both those things regularly during our calls. And it's like maybe 3 months old at the most, maybe even 2 months old. So that's why, knowing what you're doing, you can say, okay, we can then don't have to reinvent a wheel, I think. So I'm complete. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and are there any questions? Anyone like to add anything before we travel?
Yes. So basically, what we're learning is that to reiterate what we just talked about, is that there are crystals, and crystals have told us that they can communicate with each other. And because this election is coming up, and there is such there's so much talk around voter fraud and all of that, we want to make sure that the crystals are communicating, because we know that crystals are of and want to be used for the highest good. We know that they are Gaia's instrument of enlightenment, in my opinion. And so if they are being manipulated or coerced into doing things that are dark, we want to be able to free them, and we want to be able to clear and cleanse them, and we want to be able to have them freed from whatever darkness is surrounding them, so then they can work for the highest good, do the highest good, and then potentially not allow that which is dark to go beyond it, to give it permission to stop, right? I mean, what do we might, or maybe we'll find out how that will work or what they'll show us. But I'd like to, see where we go, yes, but also maybe with intention, support the work that Mary is doing, and then just see if we can clear and cleanse all the crystals. So when they communicate with each other, their frequency is raised, and they are and will only allow that which is for the highest good of humanity and for the earth to be passed from them to another.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay,
I just
so
wanted to,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to share real quick is that in a couple of time travels, I've seen little bots, Mary, that have little crystalline legs. They're like little crystal animals, and you can hear them go click, 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 as they're traversing the computer keyboards. Click, 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 click. And so like even when Cinda and I were talking the other day and I put my hand on my desktop or my laptop, we were doing things, and all of a sudden these little bots that were crystalline legs are click, 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 click through all the crystalline grids. So anyway, I just wanted to share. I'm complete.
Perfect. Anybody else? All right. Then let's go ahead. And
Let me
close.
just make sure, does Mary understand how this all works? What we do now?
I talked to her a little bit before
Okay.
everybody jumped on
Okay.
and
Excellent.
gave her our process.
Okay. Thanks, Susan. Good job.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay, so let's go ahead and close our eyes and feel our feet on the ground and invite our teams, whoever wants to travel with us today, whichever guides, beings of light, angels, archangels, ascended masters, to bring us on a journey to take us where we will be in the highest and greatest good. How we today can assist the crystalline kingdom. How we can support Mary's work, clearing the pathways, the structures, the frameworks through technology, so that we can understand and bring in new light for the transmitters through the computers to clear and protect them from the parasitic energies in the future, present or past, wherever we are guided to, whatever we see, sense, or know, whatever information comes through for our highest good and that of humanity. And as we begin to move through the time continuum, we see our guides, we see our team. They lead us to that place where we can do the most good for all humanity. Mm-hmm. Does anybody need any more time? Sharon, are y'all good? I'm going to ask Mary to go first because I know she has to leave right at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to ask her to share first, and then she can tag and pass on.
Okay, so it was really interesting. I went to several places as I was time traveling, and the overall picture that I saw was, yes, there are some dark spots throughout the world. Washington, D.C. was one. Eastern Europe and Russia was definitely one. But the two overall pictures that I was shown was that the United States in general is in of itself a dark spot, and probably an originating dark spot was the message I kept getting, and then social media was the other dark spot that I just kept getting a hit on, was that those two concepts or places in particular were areas that needed a lot of attention in terms of cleansing. So that was what I took out of it.
Do you want to tag someone and we'll move on?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I'll tag Arlie.
Okay, this was a weird one. I was shown on salt. It's all about salt. I was shown this salt being like Lot's wife in the Sodom and Gomorrah story. And it walked over to a computer and it sat down. And the computer and the salt were communicating. And from this, I got that computers communicate with the salt in every human body all the time. That this is just something that happens without us even being aware of it, that we are more of the computer and the computer is more of us than we are usually able to acknowledge. So then there was a hum. I started hearing a hum and it started traveling the computer network. And I was told that not all computers can cross the gap to communicate with the crystals in humans. Some humans are so dark that the lightness of the crystals in computer chips or something can't cross that gap, that they need an energy boost or something. So I looked at the web and it was spherical, which I hadn't really expected. I expected it to be more like, you've seen those maps of where an airline flies that go kind of arky. Well, this was definitely a sphere with the lines connecting up in a more spherical pattern. and it was fed by the sun. So I fed a load of energy to the sun to boost the power going down into this network so that the computers that wanted to could reach out, maybe a connection could be formed that they weren't, where the connection wasn't able to be formed at this point. There's still a lot of dark spots, and there are also computers that are enslaved and they are not happy. Mary, does that ring a bell with you? Enslaved computers?
It does ring a bell with me, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so what I got was, there was a special plea from these computers that are caught doing a chore that they absolutely don't enjoy or want to do. And I don't know if this was me or if this came to me. Bitcoin, just doing those rote running of numbers. But like I said, while I was casting about, that may have been what my brain came up with as opposed to what I was actually shown. So I think I'm going to take as one of the things I do this week, pouring energy into the grid that feeds energy to the crystalline parts of the computers so that they can continue to make these connections, reaching out for highest good, taking from highest good to heal themselves. I'm not really sure. And I am complete. And Cinda, it's up to you.
All right, I'll be quick. So Grace showed herself and she said, come here, like, I want to show you something. And, you know, she has these legion of angels, but Grace had handfuls of etheric power cords that were glowing in her etheric hands, and they were glowing in this opalescent energy. And she said, plug Grace in, plug Grace in, plug Grace in. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And she said, well, the first thing that you need to do is take the Grace spray, Susan, and lightly mist the plugins of each computer, of each iPad, of each phone, of each, Apple Watch. It doesn't matter, but the charging stations that are being charged with our electronics is to mist the plugins with the Grace energy, and then activate the Grace energy by typing in the words GRACE. And the second that we type it in, the Grace energy is activated and instantly goes into the computer and shares it with whoever it's going to communicate with. Put Grace in the salutations of emails. So, I know that I sign off my emails in gratitude and grace into Lon's way. So, but have Grace written. You can create art for Instagram squares and to just start a movement where all it says is Grace. And so you share, how they did the black boxes for Black Lives Matter, to just have there be a Grace box, whatever art background you want to do. And in Facebook, you can do the same thing. They let you choose the background and just type in capital letters Grace. But what you have to do is in the text body, you have to type in Grace. So it has the energy of Grace typed into it, but then the word Grace is shared throughout the screens that everybody sees when they open up their computer or they're scrolling and they see the word Grace and then they read it. And if they share it, then Grace will begin to get shared. And that will also activate all the computer lines. But plug in Grace. So anywhere that there is any electrical hookup, I saw the Grace angels standing on the 4 strands of like power lines, power cords, power towers, even the Tesla towers, and they were activating through the power cords, just, the electrical lines of Grace, activating Grace. So I can't wait. I'm going to start the second we're done. I'll be doing that.
Can I interject here? We don't call the harmonic Grace, so you have to know what the name is for that harmonic. crystalline harmonic, because it's not called grace, correct, Susan? You'll have to
The harmonic is true remembrance.
true remembrance, because that's
Right. Good point. The true remembrance. So mine is called Grace, but the Grace spray, they referred to it as the Grace spray, but you're right. The true remembrance.
true remembrance.
Yep, is the name of the spray. So if you guys want to order it, it's up, right? It's
Yes.
up and ready to
Up,
be.
we have a 20% off discount if you coupon if you want to if you
Yep.
want to, that I'll put in the chat box. Okay.
Okay, so I tag Emma.
So I did not journey. Things here have been a little weird over the past few days. There's a lot of very angry, aggressive, semi-violent male energy in the house below me and in the house next door. And so there's a sudden uptick in extreme screaming, which is a little disruptive to journeying. So I kind of have to schedule my meditations around them, and this was an unexpected interjection of rage. So one of them gets it out by playing really, really violent video games right below where I'm sitting, and the other is outside raging at pretty much anyone who walks by. So yeah, so I will pass, but I will take this into my my next meditation, and I will tag Kelly.
Wrapping you and the whole situation with guardian circles for safety and peace. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I was given 3 lines of code, and each of the codes have a number. So I will put this in my book, and I've been seeing everything's all the codes right now are very vertical in line, and that the codes can be changed to alter their realities. So I'm working with that. But this was specific to the computer crystalline energy and how to make sure that everything, all the energy is being repurposed for good through these codes. So that's what I have to offer today. Thank you, I'm complete. And I'm not sure, I guess Sharon?
Okay, so I didn't travel very far. I just said to my computer, is all the energy there of the light? And it said no. And I said, okay, good. And so we, did the work we would do. I said, and as I asked questions, where did this come from? I mean, this is a relatively new computer. They said, we came with the computer. We were with the computer, and we are in the wiring. We are like energy. It's a subtler energy below crystals, but impacting crystals. And it was like, that's a level of infiltration, subtle. Like, my hope is that where we're at now means we're at the end, because this is how it was at the beginning, when we had no interference. There was no such thing as invaders. They were not in our space. How they got into our space was with a very subtle whisper. Why don't you just turn down your energy and only be 50% home and the rest crazy? And the other whisper was, you're not enough to get yourself corrected, so let us come on in and help you. Those very subtle whispers is where it began. And my sense was, it was that, again, we're getting to the subtle, which is, and for me, it was the energy, the waves of energy below the crystals, and this one came with the computer. So I just used the tools that we know, and the value, I think, of having our various projects is definitely taking this into a time travel, where was this permission or idea given? So that was me, and I'm passing to Susan.
Well, I had a little bit of everybody's experience. I did the same thing. I tapped into my computer and I got like this angry face at me. I'm like, okay, all right. And then all of a sudden the noise in my ear, it was buzzing. When I had the allergic reaction, my immune system broke down so far that I could feel the electricity in the plug that I was plugging something in. I felt the current through my whole body. And so that buzzing started all over again. I could feel that vibration. And then all of a sudden, when you said grace spray, they handed me this crystalline spray in the spray bottle. And all of a sudden, I started going through this spiral, like I was going through the computer world, and I'm spraying this spray in this spiral as I'm spiraling down. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting dizzy here. It was like this crazy roller coaster. I was in this insane part of the, this computer world. And all of a sudden, I heard the words hearts and minds. That's where the origination is. People are infusing this parasitic energy through their computers, through what they're typing, through what they're sending, their intentions, all that fun stuff. So all of a sudden, and they used the word techno screen, this techno screen appeared, and all these codes started going across this techno screen. I'm like, well, my spray's not going to work. I can't spray fast enough. So they gave me a selenite wand. So every time these codes came up on the screen, I would just wave the selenite wand and infuse that clearing energy. And I just kept clearing and clearing and clearing. And so now, everything's going this way. And then all of a sudden the lines came down vertical, like Kelly, like your codes. And all of a sudden it's just coming down in codes. And so I just started clearing and clearing and clearing with the selenite wand. And that's kind of where they left me. They said much to travel. You just can't get it all in one. So we just set the intention that it would continue clearing. The selenite around the planet would continue to absorb, clear the codes, clear the patterning, and work with the techno screen. So I am complete.
Can I just interject one thing here?
Absolutely.
The other thing that this reminded me of, in the early 2000s, we were called to free microbes that have been weaponized, very much like COVID, by the way, where they had taken a healthy microbe of some kind, put it into an army laboratory to weaponize it to be used as a weapon in warfare. And so a group of myself worked to free those microbes. So when you talked about that, Shiddea, that's how they've done everything. They've taken what is good and co-opted it and twisted it for their good. So reclaiming is what we're all about. So very good. The other thing is, this morning I wanted to share this. This morning I was so aware of specific, women, some I know, most I don't, but of, who are so trapped in addiction, in domestic violence. I mean, just amazingly trapped, and children trapped with them. And my question to my guides was like, how in the world will we ever get them untrapped? Because we see them one at a time. And they said, well, remember when we were doing the galactic, because the galactic world is all mass consciousness, so there might be 10 million in a group. So in my client, who is a single person down here, right? When we worked on that single person, we intentionally went in to get the group mind aligned. We had to wake up the group mind so that the group mind let go of what it needed to let go of in order for that one person here in the physical to be free. So every time we worked on one, that in that way, we literally changed, millions. And and whatever, however that applies with what you're doing, we've got to do it that way. We talk about in the reality shift, move myself and all to whom I'm connected in love into a new reality. We do that, but now it's really intentionally the group minds of millions and millions, of which there's only one down on the planet, but we can impact the change. It's got to be done that way. Thanks. I'm complete, Susan.
Anyone have anything else they would like to add before we unmute and say our goodbyes? Anyone else? Emma, certainly holding you in a space of, as Kelly said, protection, love, guardian circles. Please let us know if there's anything else we can do to assist you. Wrapping you in that beautiful crystalline. Imagine a beautiful quartz, you know, on your floor, all your four walls just being clear quartz, and keeping your energies perfect and calm and peaceful. And
I'm actually finding myself very calm and peaceful in this.
Good.
And not being triggered by everything that's happening, which would have been very easy to do in the past.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like I'm here now as a kind of a stabilizing influence, and just holding my space and holding, you know, I'll integrate what Sharon just said into what I've been doing. But for me, I'm feeling fine. Thank you.
Good. Black tourmaline will absorb the negativity.
Is that this?
Yep. Black tourmaline. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Any black stones will absorb that negative energy impact. You can, you know, grid your house or your apartment, grid it in all four corners, put those pieces, rinse them every night since you've got such a high vibration. But a few pieces around, you know, grid your space.
Okay. Thank you.
Over the weekend, Emma, I was up at our cabin in Eastern Oregon, and some jerk was just firing a rifle, and it was scaring the heck out of all of us, but really scared the dogs, and one of our dogs took off running. And it took quite a while for us to find her in the middle of the frickin' wilds of Eastern Oregon. And I was so pissed that I went up to the family that was doing this, and I just yelled at the father. It's a grown child that was shooting guns. He was in his 30s. The dad is my age. And I just yelled at him because I was so pissed, you know. And he's like, "What's the big deal?" And so I turned around and I just said, "Deep six." I just went, "Deep six. All of it, all of it, all of it. Take care of this. Take care of this need for this masculine energy to be heard throughout the entire canyon. How selfish, how self-centered. You know, it's like he just doesn't give a crap about anyone else but himself, and how good it makes him feel to shoot this rifle at I don't know what. And a deep six." And it stopped. It stopped. And for a while there, I thought maybe the dad went and found his son out in the wilds and told him, but he didn't have time to do it. But it silence, crickets. And then the very next day, I heard another gunshot, and I immediately went, "Oh, deep six, deep six." And then tag and transform, and we didn't hear another gunshot.
Yeah, I've had that experience too. It's very
I was
powerful.
so amazed with how quickly it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have to say, I haven't heard my Harley since I deep sixed it. I haven't. He hasn't started up his engine since that class, Sharon.
Wow.
Keep on keeping on, ladies.
Well, thank you, Mary, so very much for joining us. It was a great pleasure, and all your information. And please, if you find time in your schedule to join us again.
Or if you feel, if you have information, Mary, that you think would be helpful for us to work on, and you don't have time, send it in through any of us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, and I do have to run, but this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
thank you, Mary. Love you.
Love you.
Well, thank you everybody for today. Love you all.
Thank
Thank you.
Look where we got led.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Okay.
Love you.
See you when we see you again tomorrow morning for some of you.
Yep.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.